Hey, how's it going? I'm Links, and today we're going to talk about everything that's new with the Underground Labyrinth, and also just some tips and tricks on how to beat it, because it's a new Underground Labyrinth. It came out with a new update, and it is themed around the Shield Hero units, or the Shield Hero collaboration. Everything from like the background tiles to some of the mobs to some of the units that you can pull. So you can actually pull all the 4 different units from the hero acquisition nodes. And this is quite nice because you don't have to actually pull them from the gacha to be able to use them in the labyrinth. You'll still be able to pick them up. And yeah. Now this new labyrinth is a lot easier, and that is per the developers. They did mention that it was going to be a lot easier. So, and I mean, it is very easy. I beat it on my very first tries, and like I beat it a couple of more times. I've done some more runs. Yeah, of course you can fail it. Like if you're unlucky with like whatever card draws, what kind of heroes you get, what passives you get, even what path you take. Like if you take a really suboptimal path that's terrible and you're not like focusing on getting any levels or anything like that, then of course you could very easily fail it. Other than that, like it's not really hard, and all you really need to do is just pick the new Shield Hero units and yeah, pick whatever passives work with them, and you should have a good time. But we'll still go over everything that's new with it, and also some general tips and tricks. Like you can watch some of my other videos I did on this Underground Labyrinth. I'll link them in the description down below if you want to check them out. A lot of like what we could do in Season 1 is of course transferable to Season 2, so you don't have to worry about like completely relearning the labyrinth. So now in the background you should be seeing some sped up footage of my very first run of the labyrinth, and as you will see, I'm not really doing a perfect run either, but there are a few units that I've noticed from doing this run a couple of times that are really good. Now of course I mentioned all the Shield Hero units are good, and I will like go over why they are good in a bit, but like some other units that you can sort of focus on getting is the Green Merlin, just to help you with like ult rushing, of course like Green Escanor or the 1 Escanor later on, and actually surprisingly Red Melascula. She was really good because some of the units hit really hard and they sort of focus down one specific unit, and it's usually like the unit that has the least HP, and by having like Red Melascula you like prevent that unit from dying, and they will only focus that unit. So that's sort of like a cheesy way, and you can actually get it from either like the second hero acquisition node or the third one, or I guess it's the first one you actually land on, because I'm counting like the very first unit you pick as a like hero acquisition node, but it's not really. So it's the first or the second one that you actually land on, and they can have her, and she's really good. So if you can pick her up, do pick her up. Like you can probably acquire her later down the line as well, and I think I actually do that in this video. So I'm pretty sure I'm not getting her at the very beginning. I can't really remember. I recorded that on Tuesday and now it's a Saturdays, and I'm really tired from work, but yeah. But what exactly do these 4 new units do, and why are they so good for the new labyrinth? Well, one of the first ones you can acquire, or actually the very first one you can acquire, is Kazuyama Kizuna. Now you're always going to be able to pick her as your first pick, and then all the 4 other units are of course going to be randomized between like Ibana and Diana and stuff like that. But I would highly recommend to always pick her, because she's really good at the start, and she can carry you very far into the labyrinth actually. So she has an AoE Pierce card, and she has Red Arthur's basic stat increase buff card, but that's not really what's good about her, and it's not even her ultimate, which of course is like a AoE version of the Jormungand ultimate. But what's really good about her is her passive. So her passive states that in PvE, if the hero damages an enemy on the ally's turn, ranks up all of the hero's cards and removes all debuffs from allies. That's really good, you know, that's really good, because if you have 2 of her cards, if you get 2 of her cards, then you can just use a card and then have the other one be upgraded to either silver or gold, and then you can use that, or you use a card and then you use her buff card to buff all your units, and it's really good. Unfortunately, none of the new units are able to have their holy relics, and this is really a shame, because she has an amazing holy relic, but we'll go over that when I actually get her on global, and like we go over everything that she does then. But she's really good to have, and she can carry far. Now next we have Philo, and Philo has a weak point AoE card, and she also has like Goddess Liz's single target stun card. And her passive states that when an ally damages an enemy with a skill, for every debuff on the enemy, ignores 8% crit resistance and 8% crit defense. If there are 5 or more debuffs on the enemy, increase the hero's single target attack skill damage, excluding ultimate move, by 60%. Now of course you're probably not gonna be able to build a team that's completely gonna utilize that, but like her weak point attack on her own, even without debuffs on enemies, actually does a lot of damage. So if you can pick her up from like the earlier stages, then most definitely go for it. It's gonna make your life a lot easier if you're using her and Kizuna as like your 2 first units, and then you can sort of build up towards having like Naofumi and Raphtalia towards the end. That is what I've done. That is what I've done most of my runs, and it's really helped me to beat like the final stages and the final boss. Now for me is probably gonna be one of your last units that you're getting. Like I haven't been able to pull him in either floor 1 or floor 2. I've only been able to pull him on floor 3. I'm not sure this is by design or if I'm just been super unlucky. But basically what he does is he has a stance which increases defense related stats and removes all debuff for 1 turn, and he can only be debuffed with 1 debuff. Then he has a new AoE card which applies a curse on the enemy and does like damage to all enemies based on his defense, which of course if he has a stance up he's gonna have more defense, which is gonna make it so that he deals more damage. Additionally, his passive is pretty broken. It says when the hero assumes a stance at the start of battle, increases all allies basic stats by 30% of the hero's defense, so that includes another 30% defense. And then when the hero takes damage from an enemy skill on the enemy's turn, applies 1 proof of wrath on the hero up to a maximum of 6. For every proof of wrath, increases the hero's all target skill damage by 35%. And that's sort of where now for me becomes a monster, especially if you pair him up with Raphtalia. Because Raphtalia has like a single target flood card that actually deals damage based on defense. So now we actually do have 3 units with single target flood cards that deal based on defense, HP in terms of Reinhard, and attack in terms of like Escanor. So that's one of her cards. The other is a Sever card, so she actually has like the same cards that Reinhard has, and it's kind of weird. But her passive is the one that's really good. So it says at the start of battle, increases allies max HP by 300% of the hero's defense, and that's really good. And also, if all allies participating in battle are of the same attribute, meaning if they are the speed attribute, the blue attribute, reduces allies damage taken by 30%. Now the second half of the passive, like you can ignore it for this run, like it's not really something you'd have to sort of build around, because you're not going to take too much damage anyway with like Naofumi's stance card if you have it up, and it's going to tank for you, and then of course after that deal a lot of damage. So really try to get these 2 units, so try to get Naofumi and Raphtalia, because in a combo those are really great. And like early on you can actually pick the blue Gilthunder, and he's going to increase your speed attribute allies defense by 60%, which is just amazing. So if you can have him in the back line, that's great. Like if you have like someone like Green Merlin for like the Old Rush capabilities, that's also great, you know. Like you can mix and match what sort of units you want to use, but generally you want your backline unit to be someone who will buff the frontline units with their passive in some way or shape or form. Now if you happen to chance upon other units while landing on the hero acquisition node, like do pick heroes which will complement your core team or like the team you're trying to build. And you should build a team based around like what passives you're getting, and then you should also pick what passives will sort of complement the team you're trying to build, if that makes sense. So for example, say you get like a passive which increases your basic stat or increases the amount of alt gauge orbs you start the match with. If you have like a red, blue and green unit on your team, then of course like if you have a red and then 2 blue units, then perhaps it's better to just replace one of those blue units with a green unit, right? So you have like one of each color in the front, because that's like overall gonna increase your party strength. And like rushing your ults is really good here, but then again, like if you can get like a really good team for the shield hero units, if you can get like really good passives for them, then of course they're gonna hit for so hard and just gonna one-shot mobs. Like it's crazy how hard they hit, and that solely depends on like you actually getting some of the actually new passives that they have introduced, which is like the passives which buff specifically shield hero units in one way or another. Now the passives I personally really like to go for is like passives which sort of work around how many alt gauge orbs you have, and there are a lot of those. So some of them like increase your crit chance, some of them increase your crit damage based on like the number of alt gauge orbs. There's like one which increases your pierce rate and stuff like that. Like if you combine a lot of those, you're gonna be hitting so hard, and those work with like any team. So like any team you have are just gonna deal so much damage, and yeah, you're gonna have an easy time. Like this Labyrinth is really easy, and it's mainly to do with like the bosses, and we'll go over them in a bit, but we'll just talk about the passives just a little bit more. So in terms of like passives, of course, pick like passives that are gonna help you out in the long run. Like you can sort of predict like, yeah, I wanna build a Naofumi Raphtalia team. Then maybe if you chance upon like a passive which is gonna increase like your speed attribute allies basic stats by 30% or whatever. I think the UR one gives like 50%. And of course pick that one even if you don't have like a full blue team, because by the end of it, if you sort of build towards a full blue team on like the 3rd floor, by the time you get to it, and by the time you like before you get to like the final boss, then you probably will have like a blue team, and it, like that passive that you got very early on is gonna really help you out at that point. So anyway, in regards to the bosses of the Underground Labyrinth, they've changed like what bosses are at the end of every floor. So as you remember from the season 1, we had like counter Meliodas on the first floor, then we had the blue Droll as like the final boss on the second floor, then we had the Visel Meliodas as the final boss on the third floor, and then we had like the endless whatever after that. I think they would call it deeper part of the underground labyrinth or something like that. That doesn't exist in this new labyrinth, but we do have is 3 new end floor bosses. So the first one is Gerhid. It's green Gerhid, and she basically has the same stats. She does have some different passives, and I do believe all bosses have like passives which reduces damage they deal to shield hero units and increases damage they take from shield hero units. So that's sort of why you kind of want to build a team around the shield hero units in one way or another. Like either have like one of them as like your centerpiece unit that's gonna deal all the damage, and perhaps even tank. I don't know, but like work towards that, and you're gonna have an easier time than if you sort of pick like other random in-universe 7 Deadly Sins units. So what exactly do the bosses do? Well, at the end of the first floor, the boss there is going to be Gerhid. Like, it's the green Gerhid. She does like all the same moves as the green Gerhid does. So she has like a stance cancelling card, and then she has like a heal card that also fills her ultimate gauge orbs, and then her ult cancels buffs and stances on one enemy and deals a lot of damage. So if she gets her ult off, it's gonna do a lot of damage, and I think she even has like the same passive, but then she has like a bunch of other passives, but you can just inspect her and see all the things she does. There's not really much to actually say about her. Like, deal as much damage as you can and try to avoid dying, I guess. Like, she's really easy, and like so are all the bosses. So the boss at the end of floor 2 is gonna be Gloxinia, and it's gonna be the green Gloxinia. He's gonna have, of course, the exact same kit as green Gloxinia, including the commandment. So what exactly does green Gloxinia do? Well, he has a bleed single target card, and then he also has an attack disable card on rank 2 or higher. This one is quite annoying, so you might want to rush your ults to be able to kill him, or just be lucky enough that he only uses a level 1 card and not like a silver or gold card with the AoE card. He also has a single target ultimate, so yeah, I mean, he's pretty easy. You shouldn't have a hard time defeating him, and even if one of your units dies, you can like resurrect them at the beginning of the next floor. And the final boss at the end of floor 3 is going to be the red Monspeed. He's going to have the exact same cards as well. Same commandment, same everything, same passive. He has like a single target card which fills his ultimate move gauge orbs, and then he has like a weak point AoE card. And of course he's going to apply a bunch of ignites to you, especially if he ults you. If he's able to ult you, he's going to apply a lot of ignites. But because he's red, like if you happen to run like a Now For Me Raftalia team, you're gonna hit for so hard. So like, it's not even funny how hard you're gonna hit, and you don't even need to push the ults if that's the case. Like, you can just do 2 Raftalia cards. I do believe he might have a revive, or was that Gloxinia? Oh, I can't remember now. It should be like at the end, at the video, like you should be able to see it in the background. But yeah, like all of them are so easy. Like it's I'm a little bit disappointed by this underground labyrinth, actually. I was hoping that it was gonna be hard, even though I know like at one of the dead notes they talked about like lowering the difficulty or whatever, but I wasn't expecting to like one-shot it my very first try. Like, that's very stupid, but it is what it is. Like, you shouldn't have a hard time actually beating it, and you should be able to get like your 30 gems or whatever. So that's really good. So that's sort of why I contemplated like, should I make this guide or this video in any way? But I was like, yeah, I'll just make it anyway, because I did say I was gonna make it. So, but yeah, I think that's gonna be it. There's not really much else to say about it. It's like, it's whatever. Like, it's a little bit of a disappointment, but I mean, it's some free shit, right? Just go grab your free gems and do a multi on the new banner if you want to. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching, all that good stuff, and I guess I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.